After trading away their entire future for Paul George 5 years ago, the LA Clippers just let PG-13 walk in free agency for absolutely nothing in return. This has to be one of the craziest playbook moves for a franchise. However, was this the best move for the Clippers? And what does this mean for Paul George and his new team, the Philadelphia 76ers? Hey, what's happening, everyone? This is Swish Culture. Paul George was almost a Golden State Warrior. The parties had met, the interest was mutual, they just had to finalize the offer and put the deal on paper. Unfortunately, at the last minute, the Clippers backed out of the deal, sending free agency into a tailspin. It was announced that PG-13 would not be re-signing with the team, and the 76ers would be the top destination for the top free agent this offseason. Now, we'd covered this in some detail in prior videos that the 76ers were all in on Paul George. However, they would consider making a bid for Jimmy Butler if that didn't work out. With just this one acquisition, the 76ers were able to accomplish their offseason goal, to add a third superstar and put the franchise in position to be a powerhouse in the Eastern Conference. Looking back, however, the 76ers completely finessed the LA Clippers, who are now the laughingstock of the NBA. To find out why, as well as why Paul George decided to leave, plus how this shakes things up in the East, be sure to watch the whole video. Just don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Swish Culture for the most analytical and entertaining NBA content on the planet. Now get ready. You're about to get Now that the smoke is cleared around this offseason's biggest free agent target, some details are coming out regarding the real reason why the Eastern Conference has a new powerhouse, depending on who you ask. Paul George spent the last 5 years on a roster with Kawhi Leonard among other stars, including Russell Westbrook, and despite all that star power, were still unable to go any further than the Western Conference Finals, a feat they only managed to accomplish once during that period. Back in 2019, when PG-13 was initially traded, the Clippers were headlined as one of the top teams most likely to win a championship, considering Kawhi, along with Siakam, led the Raptors to victory over Golden State, albeit with injuries to KD and Klay Thompson. The pairing of he and Paul George, two of the league's best defensive wings and two-way players, seemed destined to bring the Clippers from obscurity to relevance. Seeing as that never happened, there was a lot of speculation regarding whether or not the team would try to keep both stars or if one would choose to leave in free agency. Paul George's departure obviously stemmed from a lack of success in LA. So what kept the Clippers from ever achieving the ultimate goal of winning a championship? If you recall, Kawhi demanded that the Clippers trade for Paul George as a condition for him signing with the team. As the top free agent that season, the Clippers were desperate and sent Shai Gilgeous-Alexander alongside Danilo Gallinari and 4 first-round picks plus a pick swap. Kawhi had been trying to pair up with George since the two played for the Spurs and Pacers respectively. Unfortunately, things didn't play out as they'd hoped, and here's why. The first year in 2020, they faced off against the Denver Nuggets in the second round. With a healthy Jamal Murray and future MVP Nikola Jokic, the Nuggets came back from being down 3-1 to eliminate the Clippers in 7 games. Leading up to the playoffs, however, the bubble era that consisted of the league restrictions due to COVID, along with the fact that both Kawhi and Paul George had issues being healthy, and head coach Doc Rivers' lack of adjustments were all contributing factors as well. The following year saw Doc Rivers fired from the Clippers, and they promoted championship coach Ty Lue from assistant to take over head coaching duties. Load management really began setting in for the Clippers, and they made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals, where they lost to the Phoenix Suns in 6 games. This was the year the Clippers should have won the championship, but just as the basketball gods gave to Kawhi back in 2019 in handing him the championship over the injured Warriors, they took it back, and Kawhi was injured for the conference finals. With only Paul George to carry the load, this one he just couldn't manage. The next season, 2022, solidified the Clippers as the load management team. Neither Kawhi nor Paul George were healthy that year. Kawhi was out for the entire season with an ACL injury. Meanwhile, Paul George only played 31 games. The team failed to make the playoffs and would have to wait another year to give it a shot. In 2023, they brought in Russell Westbrook, who had been taking a lot of flack from the Lakers show the prior 2 seasons. He'd come in as a backup guard, with the major flaw in the Clippers being the lack of a true point guard. This year was also miserable as Paul George was out with injury for the 2023 playoffs after missing 26 regular season games. 2 games into the series versus the Suns, and Kawhi Leonard's legs had seen enough. The Suns comfortably ended the series in 5 games and all but sealed the fate of the Clippers. There was still one move in play for the Clippers, however, and that was the souring of James Harden on his buddy Daryl Morey, who had brought him over from the Nets to the 76ers. With a little determination, Harden would leave Philly and team up with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard in LA, giving them the star-level point guard that they've been sorely lacking. They built some momentum and the Clippers looked dangerous all season. With James Harden being their third star, this unlocked the potential of the Clippers, and considering this is the last year of both players' contracts, they either win or they leave the door open for one or both players to leave. Kawhi signed his extension to stay with the team without question. After all, the 3-year deal worth over $150 million was a payday right up there with the best in the league and was commensurate with his and his agent's expectations. Paul George, however, didn't seem intrigued by their extension offer, which led to rumblings during the latter portion of the season and the obvious discussion of sign-and-trade deal offers during the offseason. It wasn't clear at this point what was offered, but it seemed PG-13 was evaluating his tenure with the team, possibly based on the potential they had of winning. Both Kawhi and Paul George played the most games they'd played together as teammates in one season for 2024, and along with James Harden, the team managed to secure the 4th seed. Again, Kawhi lasted all of 2 games before he got hit with yet another injury, derailing the Clippers' first-round series against the Mavs. Despite having a healthy James Harden and Paul George, Kyrie and Luka, who would eventually go on to the NBA Finals, disposed of the Clippers in 6 games and shut down any chance of Paul George re-signing. Or was it something else? Rumors began swirling once the offseason hit, and Paul George was linked to the Warriors. Back around the trade deadline, I made a video linking Paul George as a likely target for the Warriors this offseason, and he became the top target for Golden State. The Warriors were all in and prepared to offer him the max deal with the impending departure of Klay Thompson. As the Dubs tried to iron out a deal in a sign and trade, a deal that would see the Clippers get a healthy return that included variations of Jonathan Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins, Moses Moody, Chris Paul, and a first-round pick. If you recall, when the Warriors traded KD to the Nets under a similar deal, they received D'Lo, whom they turned into Andrew Wiggins and a first-round pick. This would be a significantly better deal for the Clippers. Now, there are some other leaks stating that Kuminga was never included in the trade talks, and I tend to believe those to be more accurate. But considering what the Clippers stood to lose in the departure of Paul George, one would think they'd jump on this deal. They ended up losing Paul George for absolutely nothing and with no specific replacement. Why would the Clippers make what seems so far like the worst move by a team this offseason? Their excuse was that the contract would prevent them from having flexibility in signing players. However, I could only see this applying if it was Chris Paul, and the Clippers have yet to make any offseason moves. Wiggins, Moody, and a pick would definitely give the Clippers a shot at doing something this season, and depending on what Moody brings to the table this coming season, they might be kicking themselves for not making the trade. What seems more plausible is that the Clippers were bitter about losing PG-13 and didn't want the Warriors to benefit, so they decided they'd screw both sides out of a deal that they both clearly wanted. But the basketball gods were obviously not pleased with LA, and while it seems inconsequential aside from not getting any returns, Paul George quickly declined his player option with the Clippers and landed on a max deal worth $212 million over the next 4 years with the Philadelphia 76ers, the same team the Clippers tried to fleece in the trade for James Harden. Payback is a But that's not all. It turns out that the Clippers were offering Paul George a 2-year, $60 million deal. Meanwhile, he was seeking a max and would have stayed if he had gotten it. On his podcast, he spoke on the matter and said that the offer was disrespectful and that the Clippers inched up the offer throughout the season. Kawhi stated he wasn't surprised that Paul George left, indicating he believed the Clippers should have offered him the max deal. So no return on Paul George. He goes to the team that the Clippers tried to fleece to get James Harden, and a very murky future ahead for LA in terms of winning as they pay Kawhi to sit on the bench for the next 3 years alongside a quitter in James Harden who will likely leave well before then. Now, the 76ers playing Embiid and Maxey alongside Paul George have become one of the East's top contenders to take down the Boston Celtics. The addition of PG-13 immediately elevates them to top 2 and will likely see one of the most interesting rivalries in the East since the departure of LeBron James. While the Miami Heat have often done well, They haven't been able to find nearly the same level of success we've seen with Boston, and with the 76ers' talent spaced out between three guys who can space the floor, score at all three levels, defend and play multiple positions, they will be the team Boston has their eyes on. The Sixers were already tough with just Embiid and Maxey, so expect a good run for them as long as the guys can stay healthy. Key emphasis on health, because both Embiid and, as I've just described in this video, Paul George have struggled to maintain good health. The skill sets are complementary and it should be easy to mesh the chemistry of the players. After landing Caleb Martin, the return of Kelly Oubre Jr., I'm projecting them to be one of the toughest defensive teams in the league. Their bench might need some work, but with veterans Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, and Andre Drummond in those defined roles, they just might be able to do enough to make it to the NBA Finals or better. Let me know what you think of Paul George's departure. Did the Clippers offer him enough, or did Paul George do the right thing regardless of whether or not the Clippers had made a max offer? Do the 76ers have a better five-man lineup than the Celtics, Pacers, or Heat? Post your thoughts in the comments below. Before that though, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all your notifications so you don't miss any of my latest uploads. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Swoosh.